All that huge momentum about USC's newfound defense during this offseason. I don't want to say it's come crashing completely down, but let's put a bit of a halt to it here because one big Bear Alexander has reportedly, we will emphasize the reportedly portion of this, will be entering the transfer portal. Welcome to Trojan Conquest Live, right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. As always, I am flanked, of course, by Matt Zemek and also Tim Prangley, both from Trojan's Wire. So our many thanks to Trojan's Wire. They are just loaded with talent over there, and we get to get the analysis from these two on a regular basis here at the Voice of College Football. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Been better, I guess.
Bear market.
Good way to say it. Yeah.
Well, before we get to the bear market, Matt, again, on the night after the conclusion of the college basketball season, again, it was great to see that you were on hand firsthand to cover the Final Four and just your takeaways from the weekend.
Well, just being in a stadium with 74,000 screaming fans, most of them from Purdue. I grew up in Phoenix, born in Phoenix, now live in Phoenix. I spent 20 years in Seattle, but I'm in Phoenix because that's where my mom is. She's in her 80s, so I'm living with her, and so well acquainted with Phoenix and kind of the rhythms and the culture of the place. And a lot of people will say, and it's true, Phoenix is a suburb of Chicago. You could extend that by saying Phoenix is a suburb of the Midwest. And it's not just for spring training. Like you have your Green Bay Packer bars, you have your Chicago Bear bars, you have your Pittsburgh Steeler bars, you have your Cleveland Brown bars. It's like pick your upper Midwestern Great Lakes region NFL team. There's a big community in Phoenix. Like when the Cardinals would host those teams in the late 80s and in the 90s at the old Sun Devil Stadium, like Steeler, Brown, Bengal fans, not just Dallas Cowboy fans the most, but those upper Midwest NFL teams, they would dominate Sun Devil Stadium for a Cardinal game. So not surprising that Purdue had like nearly 50,000 in the house last night. And so it was an amazing atmosphere. But of course, as soon as UConn took over, those 50,000 Boilermaker fans got very, very quiet. But, so just being part of the atmosphere at the Final Four, and, Charles Barkley on the Turner set is like, 10 feet away from me, and just, taking in all the different sights and sounds, being able to watch Dan Hurley chew out officials on the sideline. And, it really is different when you're watching in person versus watching on TV. And, I was live tweeting the game, and I tried to tweet things that people might not have seen on the national broadcast, and it put me in a very different space. And it was a very different experience, a very enjoyable experience. So I know fans want to talk about Bear Alexander, but yeah, first Final Four seen in person. It was a very special life moment. And just on this broadcast, want to shout out TJ Reeves, Buck Sideline Guy. On Twitter, he's the lead host of TuneIn Radio's College Basketball Coast to Coast podcast. He got me the credential. So, TJ's been a really good friend in the business past 7-8 years, and he's the guy responsible for a very special experience.
That is awesome. Yeah, there's nothing like covering sports in the building right there. Every March when I see the Bryce Drew Valparaiso shot against Ole Miss, I remember I was sitting right there behind the bench by not the scores table, but on the media row across, and boom, the pass was thrown, 10 or 12 feet away from me, and I was sitting right there. And you just never forget. There's nothing like it to be there in the moment. No question about it. All right, Tim, we're going to get to the news at hand, and this is one of the downfalls of the transfer portal in regards to being a fan of a college football team. I'm not going to compare this to what we witnessed with the Alabama-Iowa trading of Caden Proctor, because this is not that. Of course, Bear Alexander did put in his time at USC, but there was so much elation just a year ago about getting one of the better defensive tackles in all of college football, him turning in a solid season. And then it appears as though he's going to be choosing to play somewhere else for a third consecutive year.
Well, yeah. So the rumors, the speculation is that he met with Lincoln Riley to discuss, I believe, going into the transfer portal. This is just again hearsay. And remember, people, this is entering the transfer portal. I'm not saying usually when a high profile athlete enters the transfer portal, they're most not likely not coming back. There are rare cases of guys going into the portal and coming back. I'm not sure if this is going to be that kind of situation. I don't even know, again, if he actually enters the portal. I do know that you have, it's weird timing for me. The timing of this thing is just a bit strange because the spring transfer portal does not open up until the 16th of April. And now, obviously, we know a lot of stuff moves behind the scenes, get things going, rumor, speculation, people start talking. So there could be a lot of truth going to this thing. But the first thing is let's wait till something actually happens. Then let's play that game. Let's assume that he does go. You still have Coach Henny. We've been all excited about Coach Henderson. Talk about his recruiting skills and his relationship building. This is what we've been talking about with this coach. He is a premier defensive line coach. And so I don't know, and neither does anybody. No one knows why, if he were to enter the portal, what his purpose, what his reasonings would be. I don't think it's anyone's right really to speculate this early as well on why he's entering the portal. It's definitely why don't we wait till he actually enters the portal? But let's just play that game. I don't want to guess what it is, but I tell you what, it can't be coaching. Because talk about a great opportunity for him. He's going to be going into the NFL draft after this next season. He'll be eligible. He's on his way to the NFL. I can't imagine a better stamp to put on your resume than to have a great season in the Big Ten and a good defense where you're the marquee piece up front and being coached by Coach Henderson, who again will be able to give you that stamp of approval that now you've had 1 year of NFL lineman development underneath a NFL line coach. So I'm not speculating why he's leaving or what the reasoning is, but there's a lot of reasons for him not to leave. And there would be a lot of reasons for him maybe to stay. But if he did leave, and this is one more thing, I had a conversation with Gabe today from Trojan Blade. If he does leave, remember the portal giveth and the portal taketh away, right? So we've lost a big piece if he does leave to some other team, but that opens up a slot for a starting position on defensive line with Coach Henny recruiting a bunch of guys across the country. And we know we needed depth. Might be easier to pull in a couple of guys now that there's an open spot available than it would have been if you had a starting, there were very few positions on the defense that were inked in. That was one that definitely was inked in. And now it's going to possibly be open. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on those things.
Well, to me, with Bear Alexander, this is what we need to keep in mind. And obviously, so this is a fluid situation right now. So the idea that he's gone, not official, like there's a lot that's unconfirmed about all of this. And I'm seeing the chat, guys saying that, USC could be pulling him back in the right direction to retain him. But let's just play along with the hypothetical for a moment. All right. I'm not saying like that does not imply that there's any kind of finality here, because there isn't. But let's just play along with the hypothetical that he does choose to leave. Let's remember how he came here. He left Kirby Smart to go play for Alex Grinch. Now that is not a normal decision. That is not a decision most people would make. And so the guy who left Kirby Smart to play for Alex Grinch would also leave Eric Henderson and Danton Lynn to go play somewhere else. So like that's the only thing that makes sense, is how illogical each of these two transfer portal movements by Bear Alexander would be. And one of the talking points that circulated is that like he is Mark, this. Bear Alexander is to the portal if he goes, or even if he doesn't go, but like over the past several years, he would be the college football equivalent of Larry Brown as a basketball coach, the ultimate nomad. Like he just can't stay anywhere very long, because Bear Alexander hopped from one high school to another. Now he's hopping colleges like nobody's business. Again, if he does leave, that just reinforces how he just likes to be a nomad. And if you take him to a Chinese restaurant, what would Bear Alexander order? He'd order the poo-poo platter. Just give me a little of everything. Like, I don't want one thing. I need to sample everything in the room.
That's Hawaiian food.
Something, what in terms of what makes people tick. I mean, Bear Alexander seems to love variety. Like that's his thing. So if he does leave USC, like, that would just affirm that he just wants to sample a little bit of everything in life. And so he's wired differently from the rest of us in that regard.
So I want to jump in there again. We can't conflate what was going on with him in high school. We also have to remember, if you know a little bit of his history, I don't want to go into his past, but it's just, he did not have a typical. I was blessed with a situation in my house where I had a lot of guidance from a very young age, and had a lot of help. Bear, from my understanding, I do not know Bear. I do not know his family situation intimately, but there have been people talking about it, and there are a lot of people influencing Bear and his ideas. And there's that instance of it. The second part is that he left Georgia not just to leave Kirby Smart to go to Alex Grinch. He left for playing time. I mean, he was frustrated. There were rumors and speculation that he was promised things that he did not get at Georgia. And he said, you know what? He went into spring. Remember, he was a spring transfer as well for them. He gave it a go. He played there. He got some moments of playing time. They wanted him there. He was coming into spring, and something about in the spring and what they shared with him and promised him, again, all speculation as well. So I get the narrative that you're doing, Matt. I'm not sure if it's, with the limited information that we do have, I'm not sure if that's the fair thing to do to a young man who is who is going through uncharted water in his life. And I hope he's getting the best advice possible. I do agree, though, leaving Kirby Smart, that's a brilliant point you're making, that you're in a great situation for the coaching part of it. But did it work for his career? Did they follow through on the promises they made for him? These are things we will really never know, why he left Georgia. He's here. Something clearly is going on here. Again, we could speculate, but in reality, I think until more information comes out, I don't think it'd be prudent for any of us to guess any one of a dozen ways why this is happening. And yes, no, it doesn't make a lot of sense with the current defensive coaches in place, as well as with what's going on with coaching for Coach Henne. These things definitely are important. But to make these guesses or assumptions right now, I'm just really truly not even close to comfortable saying why he's leaving, or the Larry Brown comparison, because I don't know. We're comparing a grown adult who's making decisions professionally to a young man who's just trying to navigate young life. I've worked with young people, and I'm just telling you, young people that especially if they're left to their own devices, are going to do what they feel is best. But we all know, I don't know about you guys, but when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I was not making the greatest long-term decisions at that time. I was very, and I'm not speaking to anybody. I've never talked to Bear Alexander. I'm just saying, I'm generalizing. So I would think that before we start going, I do get the analogy, but we're talking about a grown man compared to a young man just trying to navigate life.
48 tackles along the defensive front is a significant number. He batted down 4 passes, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. So I'll start with you, Tim. Did Bear Alexander deliver the type of season that you anticipated and hoped for?
Yes. He was one shining moment on a complete CF. I can't say that. I can't say that. Just a complete mess of a defense that was going on at USC last year. He's a guy that always drew that double team, triple team sometimes. There was a goal line play. It was my favorite plays of the whole year, where literally he took on 4 dudes. Sadly, the guy walked into the end zone because the linebacker was out of position. But that's the kind of impact that Bear Alexander can have. I was really looking forward to him and Isaiah Rakes just locking down that middle of the defensive line, getting better and better every day under Coach Henne. That would have been that can still be something amazing. But to say that he wasn't the one big shining thing on that defense that was really a shiny star, he absolutely was. And anyone downplaying the loss of Bear Alexander at USC, if he were to leave, would be absolute sour grapes.
And I was thoroughly impressed with Bear Alexander. I remember the Utah game. When USC was struggling midway through the second half and trying to rally. And it was Bear Alexander who was making high impact plays. He was firing up the team. He really was a guy who was kind of pushing uphill, trying to will that defense home. Obviously, couldn't finish the job. But Bear Alexander was the guy who was really making plays in that game, and like just in terms of being a force and a presence throughout the season. Like Bear Alexander was a guy who continuously showed up. One of the commenters in the chat mentioned, remember when he in the Cal game when he sat out the first half, he comes in the second half. USC's was able to pick it up and was able to rally and win that game. So like Bear Alexander, kind of like Caleb Williams on defense. Like he was left to do a whole lot himself. Kind of a comparison to Tuli Tuipulotu from 2022. Tuli Tuipulotu in 2022, it was him on the defensive line and not a whole lot else. Bear Alexander, though playing a different position with obviously a very, very different style of play, it was Bear Alexander, and he was not getting a whole lot of help on his defensive line and on the defense as a whole. So, just imagine Bear Alexander with other elite defensive tackles, ends, and being on a thoroughly good, balanced defense at every level, every position group with elite coaching. You would see him, be so much better because offenses couldn't just key on him, trying to take him out of the play. They'd have to account for other really good pass rushers, other really good defensive linemen, other really good defensive players within the overall scheme. So if you look at the stat sheet, that doesn't begin to do justice to how well Bear Alexander performed, because he was on an island. He was isolated in terms of how good he was relative to his other teammates. What he did without getting a whole lot of help, the numbers don't remotely begin to tell the story of his quality last season.
And just playing, just in general, playing in that middle of the defensive line, doing your job correctly, we all know you don't get those glory stats, but what you do absolutely impacts the game. You help the other guys to get those sacks. You're the one that collapses that pocket. You're the one that moves that quarterback right into the defense's end's arms. So you're the one that takes that double team to free up the linebacker to make the tackle at the line. These are the things that Bear Alexander excels at. These are the things that if he does stay at USC, will be counted on next year, and that if he does leave, they will be missed by Trojans.
And one thing to jump in here with, one of the things that Mark Rogers is really good at noting on a consistent basis, and particularly with USC, I remember when Bryson Shaw came over from Ohio State, one of the first things Mark mentioned was the fact that he has all those tackles. That's not necessarily a good thing, because that means that the linebackers aren't cleaning up, so having tackles or having certain defensive stats can be highly misleading in terms of the value to a team, in terms of what's happening on a defense, in terms of what's happening on a play. So like for a guy who plays Bear Alexander's position, having a huge amount of tackles, it's not all that representative of how good you are, because if you're soaking up a double team and you have good teammates elsewhere along the line, like those guys are going to clean up because you soaked up two bodies. It's someone else's job to come in and make the tackle. So like that is a big piece of the context in terms of when we look at Bear Alexander's statistical output versus his actual production and value within the USC defense.
What is apparently not misleading is 247 Sports ranking of Bear Alexander, because I certainly knew he had at least a good season. I just wanted to hear it from the two experts how good a season he had, but they are currently ranking him as the number one player expected to be in the transfer portal out of the guys that have obviously declared at this point, which is pretty limited, but still they've got him on top.
I agree. I think it's a good evaluation.
Yeah, that's not unexpected. Again, he is special, and I did hear people saying, I will give credit, not in the Trojan family, But outside, we're saying downplaying his impact on the defense last year. And again, you just really have to watch the game to see just the impact that he made.
And of course, Bear Alexander from Texas, so there's much speculation as to where he may wind up. I'm sure USC does not want to see him in week 1. But Tim, you also made a comment.
Contemplate.
Tim, you also made a comment just to keep us all in the right headspace here. It's obviously not official, and there are some points of speculation out there about this maybe jumping the gun, or that he may have other considerations or be having other conversations that they, of course, USC will have the opportunity to try to change his mind again, if that's in fact what's happening here.
Well, I mean, I will just say that so Gabe from Trojan's Blades in the chat, and I've been reading there's sort of news and stuff going on. Just same speculation was going on hours before it broke. You know, we were hearing about we heard about the news that he might be going, and then it came out. USCJ broke the news. Don't let anyone nationally tell you otherwise. It was USCJ that put it out there on Twitter that he was that there's a strong chance that he's going to enter the portal. We talked about earlier, Coach Henderson, Coach Henney, he talked about right away how losing his mom at a young age and just the struggles he's had and how he really works. How does he do his recruiting? He does his recruiting because he's a relationship guy. Like, he really cares about he talks to these kids. He talks to them in the language that they're going to understand. And I think maybe might resonate with Bear. And I think that the issue, if it's an issue where, like someone was saying, speculation, that there's some family issues. I don't know. I have no information on that. He is from Texas. All the rumors are that he's going to be, if he does surface, it will be somewhere in Texas. Those are the schools, right? Texas A&M, UT, SMU. I've heard some things like that, just in that general area. But I wouldn't rule him out, because this day and age, you're not just recruiting kids in high school. You're not just recruiting kids from other schools. You're recruiting your own roster every single year now in college football. And we've seen what Coach Henney can do with kids that barely know him that are recruits. I'm sure in the short amount of time that Bear was here. And if anyone's seen Bear on social media, I used to go to the basketball games. I saw Bear at a lot of basketball games. It's not like Bear was sitting, just aloof somewhere, NIL, not soaking in the USC experience. He genuinely seemed in social media and out on events to really enjoy the USC experience. At the end of the day, it's a young man, and I hope every Trojan, and this is, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, if he needs to go somewhere else, then you should all pray for him and hope he gets what he needs in his life. Because this is also the kid that broke down and blamed himself for one play in a game, that didn't go the right way in that Utah game. When in reality, there's 100 plays that could have gone differently, but he took that to heart, just breaking down emotionally. So I feel that if USC is the right place for Bear, Coach Henderson, he and Riley are going to sit down. They're going to talk about it, and if it is somewhere where he can flourish, I believe he'll be back at USC. If not, I'm going to wish him the best of luck, because why couldn't you root for a kid trying to get his dreams?
In future weeks, of course, here at the Voice of College Football, if this news does turn out to be as reported, we will lean on these two to kind of rework the USC defensive line and see how the pieces may fall and who needs to step up. But that's probably a conversation for a later date, just to see if this actually does come through, and plenty of time to analyze the defensive front. The spring game is coming up on the 20th or 27th?
The 20th.
20th. So we are just over a week away. Okay. Tim, did you pull anything from this week's activities out there?
Again, it's not like the old days where you could sit there and watch the entire practice. Really, what you get to see is just a bunch of drills, guys hitting sleds, guys, running through just ball possession drills, strip drills. All the good stuff is is behind the curtain. Who's running with which group, is behind the curtain. But in general, I would just say that as that we're starting to find, and there's from the words that are being said from the coaches about what is shaping up as far as a penciled in lineup for the fall. Like, for instance, last week we talked about it. We talked about on Trojan's Wire. We talked about here how when Coach Entz was talking about the linebackers, he talked about how well and how quickly the veteran linebackers have picked up. And he talked right away about Easton Macarius-Arnold, about how he is, really picking up the Mike position. Kind of basically made it sound like, hey, it's his job to lose. And then right away he talked about Mason Cobb, and he talked about how his leadership and his veteran, he's picking it up well. And then he talked about the freakish nature of Eric Gentry, where you have a guy his size, his wingspan, his ability, his smarts. I mean, he talked about all three of them, how quickly he's picking up the defense, and just what a disruptor that he's going to be on the defense side of the ball. Then we talked to Coach Riley, and I asked him point blank, we know we've got a pretty good idea who's going to be on that left side, right? So we know that you're going to have Elijah Page at left tackle. Most likely you're going to have Emmanuel Prangley at left guard. And then we know that Jonah Monheim's moving from left tackle to center this year. But there's still kind of this gray area about who's going to be the right guard, who's going to be the right tackle. And he really started breaking it down for us. And so listening to the coaches lately, they're starting to let us in a little bit, right? We're not at practice, but they're starting to tell us who's running with who. Like, for instance, Mason, he said, Riley said Mason Murphy is running in the vast majority of snaps at right tackle. And if we were to play today, he would be our starting right tackle. I mean, he just keep flat out, and he just said that. We know that Gino Quinones is coming back from injury. So, I mean, that's a situation at right guard. But then you're going to have the young guys moving up. You're going to have, Amos Taulele and Michael Banuelos is coming off of an injury, but you're going to have Alani Noah, and they're going to be battling for that right guard position as well, and filling in left and right guard. But it's starting to shape up. We're starting to get information, although we're not watching it. We're starting to get information from the coaches on how they're seeing the team is responding to their coaching and the new scheme.
And just to highlight Tim's work at Trojan's Wire, I mean, like he's asking some direct questions of the coaching staff, getting some very helpful, clarifying answers. So just want to commend Tim for the reporting, the actual shoe leather that he's putting forth in the field and on the field, as it were. And, Tim gathered some quotes from Lincoln Riley also about Tobias Raymond, and we're going to be publishing that later this week at Trojan's Wire. But like Tim is asking the right questions, and he's getting some very interesting answers from the coaches. So just want to spotlight Tim's work at Trojan's Wire. You really want to be reading our football reporter, Tim Prangley.
I don't want to give too much away, but again, there's a theme we're hearing about a lot of these guys, especially in the linebacking room and in the offensive lines, is they're all very bright. Very bright, picking everything up really quickly. And just little short tidbit, if you should check it out. We'll have the Tobias Raymond story out later this week. He's coming along quick. He came in, they knew he'd be a development piece, right? But he put on that weight. He's adjusted to that weight, and we'll go into more detail in the story. But yeah, really, really exciting news, because let's face it, you need tackles. I mean, whether it's going to be in the transfer portal or not, we're going to need as many tackles, because you don't go through a season without losing offensive linemen. It never happens. Guys are either playing hurt. You don't want to have a situation where you have a guy out there playing on one leg, because that's happened. That happened, in 2022. We had guys playing. Voorhees was playing injured a lot of that season. Sure, he's out there. They wheel him out there, but he's not 100%. So you really need that depth, and we can't stress it more. Another funny thing that Lincoln Riley said is, like, people keep talking about we're going to the Big Ten, Mark. He's like, these things were changing. People think that we're doing all this because we're entering the Big Ten. He's like, these are the changes that this team, the evolution, need to make. This is what we needed to do to become a better ball club. So we're not making these decisions specifically to join the Big Ten, but you can see that they are making the line play more stout, more tough. And that's seriously something we've seen. We talked about the softness and the inability just to kind of impose your will on either side of the field. And now you're starting to see that hopefully with the pieces they're putting together.
The Washington game to me sticks out as the game that I just thought was the most egregious indictment against the rush defense, and both from a physical standpoint, but also a schematic standpoint, where you could drive trucks through the line. The gaps were unbelievable in that game in particular.
And one of the things, I mean, it's painful to remember this, but like just in terms of analysis, like it's instructive, Mark, just to kind of follow up on what you said. It's not as though Washington's running plays were really complicated, intricate plays. Like these weren't misdirections. They weren't like traps or, delays with, clever ball handling, sleight of hand, anything like that. No, they were just simple toss sweeps. Just toss the ball right away. No misdirection, no pretense, no disguise, and just flip it left, flip it right, and Washington would gash USC. So that just to kind of reinforce your point there.
I am in no way, shape, or form, because one, I'm not that crazy to defend our defense on any level. But I will say this: you saw what they were doing. They were taking away the pass. You're talking about Michael Penix and that passing attack. And they did hold them to under, like I think it was like 250 in that range, whatever yards. So they picked their poison. And obviously you saw it. What they did is if you're a playoff level team, if someone tries to take away your passing game, what do? You're going to annihilate them on the ground. And that's exactly what they did. I agreed. That defense was, it is what it was. We could pick through it again if we want. But the reason why they gave up that many yards is because they held a prolific passing team down in the passing game. The same result happened, right? But they chose they're going to take away the passing game, and they let them put up like historic numbers on the ground. So,
super really quick, Mark. In. Yes, our buddy Jackson, the Jacksonian. We appreciate you being here, man. As always, 145, just a mere 145 days until kickoff of the 2004 USC season against that other three-letter team, LSU. Much anticipated game that we will dissect throughout the offseason into the summer. Absolutely. We'll get some good LSU guests on here to break down the LSU side of things. And we got Slap Happy. Thank you so much for the 5 spot there. Fight on, ladies, as we got 3 players today.
Well, I would have to say that the season is coming faster than I even can imagine. Usually it seems like a long time, but it just seems like week after week, either if it's in recruiting like Slap's talking about, or if it's going on with with the rumors of speculation of losing key pieces to defense, or if we're picking up amazing coaches, or we're stealing another lineman from Georgia. I mean, it's been a lot going on this offseason, and right around the corner is the spring game. And once you hit that spring game, it just seemed time flies before we get to that until we get, because then you have the end of April is going to be the transfer period, right? So you get that spring transfer portal. Now remember that's the time, about 2 weeks worth of time, where they don't have to choose their team. They just have to declare for the portal during those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so, but that's where we're going to get our list of names. And regardless of what happens with Bear Alexander, USC is going in and they're going to go for some defensive tackles. They're going to shore up some guys. Speaking of which, you guys, I will get to the people that I've committed to USC, but there's a name of a running back that's been a pretty damn hot running back in the Pac-12. Damian Martinez entered the transfer portal, and this guy is one hell of a running back. And I'm very happy with our running backs. Very, very happy with the running backs that we have. But this is a guy that rushed over 1,500 yards, I think, last year. In the Pac-12, just a stout big guy. I think he's like 230. About 6 foot 230. So Damian Martinez was one of the better, if not one of the best running backs in the Pac-12 last year. He has entered the transfer portal. USC right now only has 4 scholarship running backs on the roster.
And for him, I will speculate to a certain extent. I don't know the reasons why exactly, but having been relegated to now what is Group of 5 football at Oregon State, you got to think that may have played into it. They're basically playing what amounts to a Mountain West Conference schedule. and he no longer has his head coach in Jonathan Smith, and he has a ton of options, as Tim just outlined. He's a tremendous running back.
I think at certain positions, I think running back would be one of them, given that USC, I think USC is in a pretty good spot with its running back room right now. I would say for Martinez and other high-profile running backs or other players at certain positions where USC doesn't have an especially acute need, the main thing is let's just hope he doesn't land at a chief rival, at a chief opponent in the Big Ten. That would be the main thing. If Washington gets him, if Oregon gets him, if Ohio State gets him, if Penn State gets him, that would be a particularly bad outcome. So for some prospects, you want to have him. It's really acutely urgent to get a specific prospect, defensive line, offensive tackle. But at running back, I think the main thing with Damian Martinez and others, just don't land at a chief competitor in the Big Ten Conference.
I would be shocked if he landed at Ohio State, especially, but also Michigan or Penn State. Now, Michigan State, with his coach headed that direction, and also his quarterback, who played part-time, accounted for 7 touchdowns last year in Aiden Childs, that's a possible destination. Also, Ohio State running back Dallin Hayden, who received very little work in his 2 years with the Buckeyes, but when he did, he was really good. He's in the transfer portal as well, so it would be good for USC for him to land elsewhere outside the Big Ten.
All right, so Slap Happy, contributed to us, so thank you, Slap Happy, for that. And Slap Happy is telling us in the chat. Let's talk about new players yesterday or today. So let's talk about the new receiver that USC just brought in, Romero Eisen from Baltimore. And just in terms of height and weight, he is thin, he's small. So what does that tell you? That he's a speed merchant. They're not getting him as the big boy wide receiver to win 50-50 contested catches in the air. No, this is the guy who is going to be a possession receiver, and he's going to be a speed guy who really tries to clear out space in a defense, within Lincoln Riley's larger scheme. So this is a move for speed and electricity on offense. So that is the particular niche that Romero Eisen brings to USC. Slap Happy. Yeah,
he's a sub 10-9 100 guy. So you're right. He's like a speed merchant, and he's great after the catch. Basically, you get the ball in his hand in space, and and he's athletic too. So he's that perfect combination. You get the ball to a guy who's athletic, can make a move and break an ankle, then turn on the burners and break some angles, and then you got yourself a touchdown. So yeah, I think that's really what they're looking at with Eisen. I did not know much about him. I watched a little bit of film, but he's that guy that can take the top off the defense. He's that guy that if you give him some space, he catches the ball in stride, makes a move, he could be gone. So yeah, that's a great pickup by Lincoln Riley.
And so who is the next addition that we need to review?
Well, the 2 running backs that came in on Sunday, those were 2 more additions. And Tim's written a lot about USC. When USC goes for running backs, goes to the state of Texas. I think that's been a pretty consistent theme.
But I mean, if we think back, going back to like the Sean Walters, and some of these guys that just have been prolific running backs for USC. Texas has always been a great source of, San Diego and Texas just seems like where USC loves. Of course, the Bay Area for one guy, but we're not going there. But I mean, there's certain places, and it's just really more recently than anything. USC. Just take a look at the list of the top 20 or top 15 all-time rushers at USC. You're going to see a lot of dudes that played high school ball in the Lone Star State. So, just continue to load up on Texas running backs. I'm excited. I mean, Brian Jackson's a really big guy that we got this year already on campus. And then we've talked about Amarian Peterson and Quentin Joyner. Just, that's when you said, Matt, that we're not worried about the running back room. I am not at all. And nor do I think that Damian Martinez would come to USC. But if I did, I'd just say, man, adding a guy like him to the rosters, it would be something sweet. That's all my point was. I'm very happy with what we do have on the roster. And obviously I'm leaving out Woody Marsh, who's the one guy on the roster that plays running back that is not a native of Texas. But Again, he also is the number 5 all-time receiver in SEC history and the number 1 receiver in Michigan and Mississippi State history. So we got some good backs coming in.
And I just want to reiterate one key point that, we saw Travis Dye as the main meal ticket guy in 2022. We saw Marshawn Lloyd as the main meal ticket guy in 2023 with, the other guys in the running back room not getting large numbers of touches. This is a year, like I believe that this is a year to start to go buffet style and really spread it around in the running back room, giving different guys all a solid amount of touches, but not giving one guy the large majority of touches. That it's really time, if Lincoln Riley is emphasizing defense and toughness and ball control and shortening games, if all these things are coming together as part of a philosophical shift, then that should also mean not just more running the ball, but specifically giving more guys more opportunities so that you keep everyone fresh and you're not overly leaning on one guy or one style of running to do the work for you. Having more of a balanced and committee-like approach at running back, that much more necessary for USC this year.
We have pushed well over 600 people watching us total, about a third of you or less watching on YouTube. So keep in mind, we appreciate your viewership regardless of where you are, but to ask questions, make comments, and see those comments and questions posted there on the screen, please join us on YouTube. But we are stretching out and reaching out to try to grab an audience outside of YouTube as well. And as Tim is pointing out, please subscribe here at the Voice of College Football USC. It costs you absolutely nothing. We do appreciate it. So a little payback for what we deliver here at the Voice of College Football. Please subscribe.
And I promise? I don't know. We'll ask the chat then. If you guys in the chat, if you guys want to turn this into a call-in show, we have a little bit of time, very little time. I don't know if we're gonna have time. We actually covered it pretty harsh here. Chat, is there anyone out there that would want to weigh in on the Bear Alexander stuff really quickly? I guess we could run to those. We actually have a super chat here, Mark, while I'm doing that. This is from our good friend Gary and Dana Point. Gary, thank you so much for a $10 super chat. Appreciate you, like as always. Thank you so much for being here. First off, supporting the channel, but also doing it financially. We really, really appreciate you. I think I scared Matt off, Mark. I don't think he wants to take phone calls. He's like, more phone calls. I take phone calls to those guys on Friday. I don't need any more of these phone calls. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe we could take we have time, Matt. It's up to you. Do you guys want to take a couple calls here at the end of the day?
Sure.
Okay, so the thing is going to be, it's not going to be like our normal show, guys. If we do this, you're going to come on quick, either have a point or a question, really quick. We're going to turn through them. But if not, we could probably just call it a day. But I could switch over to the other one with the phone number on it.
All right. So I believe the number is 888-997-4539. 888-997. There it is, 4539 at the top of the screen. In the meantime, while we're waiting for calls, we will remind you that we also have YouTube channel memberships here at our USC channel, and 14 segments with Matt and myself delivering some choice cuts, as Matt likes to say, concerning college football, USC, big topic issues as it pertains to USC's transition into the new age of college football, into the Big Ten, of course. And so a lot of stuff that you guys will be able to dive into and leave us your comments and questions. Certainly, we will take your requests for upcoming segments that we will produce. So we will take your requests, Matt and myself, on future exclusive content segments for YouTube channel members right here at the Voice of College Football.
Okay, guys, this works. I'm not going to be able to keep Matt here very long. So if you do want to call in, 888-997-99-Riley, right? 888-99-Riley or 888-997-4539. Also, while we're waiting for that call, USC did pick up and on 247, they call them crystal balls, a predictor. And we're talking about, Coach Hedder said we're talking about defensive linemen, but Trajan Odom from North Carolina, 5'6", 275, 4-star on the 247 composite, picked up a prediction to come to USC. You were talking about a guy that was born in here in Southern California in Inglewood, and grew up in Orange County in elementary school. When has lived in North Carolina, but he kind of considered himself a California guy. He'll be for that big official visit weekend on the 21st. So keep your fingers crossed for that. Again, I think that in the long run, as long as Coach Henderson, and I don't think he's going to be here in the long run, but as long as Coach Henderson's here, we're going to have top-notch defensive linemen. That's one thing, regardless of what happens going forward, that you're not going to have to worry about. So I don't think that we're getting any calls. So that's fair enough. We sprung it on them. Got 681 people on watching on all platforms. Let me double check.
We sprung the calls on our audience tonight the way Bear Bryant sprung the wishbone on John McKay in 1971 in the Coliseum.
Stealth mode. Yep, we're connected. All right, but I just don't think it's happening. I tried to stall for you guys. I tried to get it to where we would. Oh, wait, I spoke too soon. Here we go. Good evening. This is for welcome to the first caller ever on the Trojan Conquest live show. This is not normal for our Monday/Tuesday show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi guys, it's Dave from Iowa.
Hi Dave, how you doing? Dave's a regular. How you doing, Dave?
All right. I'll get right to it. Rather than the call-in show here with you guys, Tim, you're kind of making me adapt to like Ryan's show where I can only say something for 20 seconds. So I'll be quick. What does it mean that the top defensive player from last year's team for USC, if the reports are true, is leaving? Like the top player, the biggest hype man, and he's leaving. What do you think that truly means in terms of the culture?
It means that college football has changed. It means that this is now a business. It also could mean that there's something going on in this young man's life. It could be something happening in his family. It could mean literally a thousand things. So we could try to speculate why he's moving. If you want to say is what's the indictment or what does it say about the program? I'm simply going to say is we don't have enough information yet. I would say that everything as far as defense and the defensive line is trending up, significantly up. Even losing Bear Alexander, which would be a big hit to this team, is not even close. I mean, Justice Terry was committed to Georgia. I think people just forget things really quickly. Committed to Georgia for over a year. Coach Henney comes in and says, you know what? Would you like to come to California? And now we flipped him. Obviously, we're a long way from December. But things like that, as far as what it says about this program, I think it says very little. I think this is a young man's life and his decisions. And if what's best for him is not at USC, I think he's going to make them.
And Dave from Iowa, I would say this. Bear Alexander leaving Georgia to come to USC. Did that mean there was a good culture with Alex Grinch? I mean, I would look for trends. I would look for several players leaving as an indictment of or reflection on culture. But one guy making a decision that, you follow what's being said in the chat. If he's going to leave, people are saying it's probably his family situation. And if that's driving this bus, then, that is not really anything that USC, Lincoln Riley, Danton Lynn, Eric Henderson can do much of anything about.
No, we just sit back and respect it and hope that it's the best for him and his family. I mean, that's just as simple as it could be.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate your call or the call and your comments.
Yeah. Again, Dave, remember, that's just for this show. Excellent call. That's just for this show. Normally we do let you guys talk, but this is going to be a little bit a different animal. So we're going to grab a couple really quick before we get out of here. But that might be it. Oh, let me take a look. One brave soul, Dave from Iowa. So, hey, we'll take it. That was one phone call. We sprung it on them. We got 684 people right now that are a bit shy, and that's okay. You guys can come join us on Friday. Don't worry. We won't have 700. We might have a little bit. Actually, I don't know. We're talking Bear Alexander all day Friday. So listen, I'm hoping we're rejoicing and that, we have some news that are positive. You either come and celebrate or come commiserate. Either way, we'll welcome anybody who wants to come in and talk on Friday, where basically you guys are the show and we do not limit your time. Oh, here we go. Good afternoon, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Carter Schwartz.
Carter, how you doing? We got celebrity. You guys,
what's up, Trojan family?
If you haven't checked out Carter's work, he's got his own channel, Carter Sports. If you guys want up to dates on, especially the one thing I like watching for Carter is he has up to the minute. If there's a guy that's been offered or there's a guy that's committed, Carter's gonna be right on with the video. Carter, what's your thoughts on? So I know you call about Bear Alexander. What do you want to talk about?
Man, I'm already moving on. What about Philip Blighty out of Indiana to transfer D tackle?
Well, I mean, he would be huge. Everyone's all over that. that would be a great pickup, and that's something that's going to happen. They're going to be going after him with or without, without Bear. You're going to need that. I mean, you got Rakes there, a big dude in the middle. That would be another huge pickup. We need another defensive tackle, especially a huge guy in the middle like that would be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm hearing conflicting reports. Bear might be staying. So what's going on? Is Bear trying to negotiate NIL? I think Bear trying to up his NIL.
Well, it's within his right. We live in the United States of America, and apparently now this it's even better than free agency. This is free agency where you can do it anytime you want, right? There's no windows. You just say, hey, you know what? Until you guys make some rules about this, I'm going to go to the highest bidder. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that's what Bear's doing, but it's well within his right, you guys, right?
Yeah. Is Matt still on? I can't see right now. I got off the video. Matt still on?
Yeah, Matt's here.
Yep.
So I got a question for Matt. If it is an NIL situation with Bear, right? And he want more money. He want to negotiate. Would you offer Bear more, or would you let Bear go?
I would offer more because not only is he a good player, but like he's already proved his value to USC. I think that's the thing. Like he's already produced one really good season for USC. So to have not just roster continuity, but now you get him under Eric Henderson, you get him under this new defensive staff. That's a lot of upside to turn down. So yes, if it is, just to buy into the premise and framework of your question, Carter, if it is an NIL issue, yes, it is worth an added investment for USC to keep him.
Your thoughts, Carter? What do you think? Do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, it is. Just for, like he said, for the continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want future recruits thinking that USC is going to play with their NIL money like Texas A&M was doing. We don't want to get the reputation of we going to promise you something and not give it to you, or we ain't willing to take care of the players that was already there. Because before we even got in the high school NIL game, we was pushing that we going to take care of the players that's here already. So that would be going against what we was preaching. So, yeah, I would definitely more. I think he could be a beast with Coach Eric Henderson. So I would give him more. I mean, this for the whole optics of our university. We don't have reputation.
Yeah, and you both just made me think about this. These spring practices are invaluable. I know that he has not participated in some of it, but he's there. He knows the scheme. He's watching it. These practices are going to be very, very important. There's a game, first game against LSU, third game against Michigan. Yeah, I know we have a fall camp as well, but I mean, the fall practices, sure, that's great, but they're installing a lot of the basics here in spring camp. So these practices over the next couple of weeks are going to be invaluable. And if they can get Bear back into the fold, as opposed to bringing in another stud defensive lineman, he'll have that knowledge of this defense under his helmet. So I think that's also one more to think about. Anything else, Carter?
Yeah, I think playing defensive line, I think that position you could learn the scheme probably faster than a linebacker or a secondary. So I think he'll be fine in that aspect. He kind of experienced player. I don't think he'll have a problem with learning the playbook. I just want to keep him on campus. We just need to keep him. So we could do anything we can. I ain't worried about spring camp. I feel like Bear gonna be there. Bear was there last year. He was big for us. He racked up a lot of double teams. I know he didn't get a lot of tackles, but even Coach Dan Lanning said when you watch USC, they a different team with Bear Alexander on the field. So I don't care about spring practice if he's missing it or not. We need to keep Bear if we can. If it's possible, we need to keep Bear, keep this going. And like you guys said, if we keeping Bear or not, we still was gonna look at 2 or 3 more tackles. Yeah. Somebody said in the chat how many defensive linemen we going after. I'm like about 5 of them. It ain't no limit right now. So hopefully we keep Bear. I agree with Matt. NIL issue, give him more. And I ain't worried about the spring practice. We do need to get him in there, but I think he'd be able to learn on the defensive line pretty fast. I think it's that complicated.
Yeah. Well, again, I didn't say it was overly complicated, but if you're saying that spring practice isn't important, that's where I would disagree with you. But he has participated in some spring. He will continue to because the portal is not going to happen until he can't even enter the portal until the 16th. So I would imagine he's not going to shut down. I think that from what everyone's saying, as soon as I get done here, I'm gonna go take a look. But it sounds very positive. Things leak out and things are dynamic, by the way. Just because it's reported doesn't mean it wasn't true this morning. Things can change. What was true this morning could also be true this afternoon, tomorrow morning, whatever. That's what people don't realize. They want to bite the hand that feeds them. They want information. Someone goes out, gets some good information, shares it with people. And then if it goes the other way, people want to make it seem like a narrative like they were wrong. It doesn't mean they were wrong. In that moment when that was released, USCJ was right. I guarantee you there was talk and he was talking about entering the portal. That's all he said. And that was a fact. And now it's coming out. And that he was the first person to do it. So if things change, that would be great. Because guess what? Life, things change. So great call, Carter. Appreciate you coming. Again, join us. Haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you join us again soon.
Yeah, I'll still be watching. I just ain't I usually catch you guys too late. Like the show be already over. I'll be like,
or you can jump in on Friday at 6 p.m. We'll be here 6 o'clock.
I agree. 6 o'clock Eastern or Pacific?
That's Pacific. 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 Pacific every Friday. All right.
All right, for sure. Fight on, guys.
Fight on, Carter.
Thanks, Carter.
Guys, make sure you check it out, Carter. Again, Carter Sports right here on YouTube. Got some great videos on our recruits, commits, and everything USC. Make sure you check them out. All right. I think we are done. So thank you guys for calling in. These two got more than they expected. We're past our normal break.
And Tim,
okay, one more. Let's do it. No more calls. We got one more. Okay. Let's take one call. Make it fast. Yeah, go ahead, Matt. Hang on, caller.
Take the call. No, take the call.
Okay.
Sorry. Who is this and where are you calling from?
This is AZ Weddle calling from Gilbert, AZ.
Calling from
the Weddle's a family nickname. That's what I.
That's okay. You're from Matt's neck of the woods. That's why we'll let slide.
Yeah. Well, I hear him saying he's in Phoenix. Yeah, I'm over here in AZ. I'm originally from California. I'm originally from a small city called Santa Maria. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at, but that's where I'm originally from. Now I'm in AZ.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, diehard Trojan fan. Just first time caller. Like I said, just recently started getting in the comments. I couldn't stop the itching anymore. Had to put my 2 cents in as a diehard USC fan.
We appreciate
I've been following you guys for a while. Appreciate the content you guys put out. But yeah, I just wanted to speak on of course, the Bears situation. From what USCJ was saying, it sounded like a family situation. I just want to say, if it is a family situation, I just want to say, you can't do nothing but respect that and, wish them best. But if it's anything other than that, I would have to disagree with his decision, be highly disappointed, which, I was pretty sad when I heard the news today. I was like, oh man, this is what I didn't want to hear today. So yeah, I just want to appreciate you guys for doing these shows, and I'll be calling again.
Absolutely. Friday at 6 p.m., 9 Eastern. That's your time.
Yeah, I work UPS at nights. I just barely got off right now, so sometimes it's hard to call, but I definitely be listening.
Great stuff.
But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. That's the whole point of all this.
All right. So before we go, Gary from Dana Point had a super chat. Want to recognize that one before we go. We always want to thank everyone who contributes. So thank you, Gary from Dana Point.
I think we got him already.
There we go.
Yeah, we got Gary. I think we might have dropped. But listen, I could always thank Gary.
Okay.
Gary,
when I dropped, yeah, I did drop. Okay.
That's okay. Listen, I'll thank Gary twice because again, Gary, among many of you out there, is a great supporter, and I'm all for recognizing Gary. I'll recognize Gary a third time. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you as always being here. Well, I know what is it on Friday. There's one thing I'll know. I'll know that it'll be the weekend, and I'm gonna get to talk to Gary. So I'll be excited to get that call at 6 o'clock on Friday. You guys, make sure you check us out. It's the Conquest call-in show where basically it's your guys' show. The whole show You guys lead it. I'll give you some ideas. Matt will give you some ideas what we want to talk about. You guys take over, and you guys tell us what you want to talk about, as long as that's to do with the Trojan family.
We appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. Over 700 on the line total. Join us on YouTube each and every Monday at that's 10 o'clock Eastern. That's 7 Pacific for this show. And again, as Tim has been touting, Friday nights with Matt and Tim on the call-in show. That's at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And again, you got to get here on YouTube to get your questions and your comments responded to. So please do that. Subscribe on the way out. There it is, the big white arrow. Please subscribe right in the corner by Matt and get it done. It is absolutely free. Become a YouTube channel member as well right here at the Voice of College Football.
And remember, every time someone subscribes here to the channel, somebody in Oklahoma will begin to cry. So if you want to see that happen, feel free to give us a call or go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because it helps. Every subscriber helps, and we appreciate it.
Feel good, USC fans. That's exactly what happens. Just envision that every time there's a new subscriber that's going on somewhere in Oklahoma. It's a sure thing.
We don't get a lot of Oklahoma. We used to get a lot of Oklahoma people like last year. I think, I don't know, just for some reason, we're not getting those calls anymore. So
6 and 7 kind of backed him down a little bit that first season, I think.
Yeah. But thank you all for being here, guys. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. We lost Matt, I think.
We will see Matt back here with Tim on Friday night and see all of you as well. Thanks for being here on Trojan Conquest Live. See you next time.